Sitcoms. You love them, you hate them. Either way, they definitely were massive a few years ago. So what happened? Why are sitcoms not popular anymore, apart from using AI to make them?
Hey, so what's the difference between an oral and a rectal thermometer?
The taste, honey.
The death of the sitcom is one that a lot of people have been expecting, but I don't think it's because of the genre itself. I think it's because of the amount of slop that is released that people have just kind of grown tired of. I mean, no one wants to watch another laugh track comedy with cringe jokes and characters with no substance. I'm looking at you, Raj. Even shows that were huge have now kind of grown dated because people realize they're not really funny without the track in the background.
Hey, Howard, did you see that?
Okay, never mind, that's actually way more funny. There are a few, however, that have been able to maintain an audience and aren't as dated as the rest. The Office. Being probably the greatest of all time, both in longevity and quality, The Office managed to craft an incredible narrative which felt real and not filled with massive gags that a 2-year-old would write. The reason a show like The Big Bang Theory became so unbelievably annoying by the end is because viewers just kind of realized there wasn't really any substance to the characters or plot. It was just a whole load of jokes from the 2000s, like making fun of the nerds, or making fun of the Indian because he's Indian, or making fun of the blonde white chick because she's dumb and hot. And she's dumb and hot. And she's dumb and hot. That's literally it. That's all her character is. And the best thing about these shows is the things that they're saying aren't even funny. Like, I'm sure you've seen those videos where they remove the laugh track from Friends. It just sounds terrifying.
Apparently people now call you mental.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, if you try to put a laugh track on The Office, it sounds equally as awful.
Management. Jim, what is that called?
Microregiment?
Boom. Yes. Now Jim is going to be the client. Dwight, you're going to have to sell to him.
The Office wasn't just a throwaway sitcom. It had characters that felt real, that went through arcs and behaved in some ways that you could see actual people acting. You have the manager who tries to get everyone to like him, but just comes off as annoying. You have the Office crush. You know, it feels real. But another thing The Office does is not treat you like a toddler. It lets you decide when to laugh. It respects the viewer. And one thing I think kind of goes over a lot of people's heads when talking about this show is the fact that it takes place predominantly in one setting, which is kind of crazy considering they were able to do so much with it. The only real problem with The Office overall was the quality kinda dropped off after Michael left. I mean, the season after was okay. I loved Andy, but the final season was pretty mid. At least it wasn't as bad as the final of How I Met Your Mother. Now, How I Met Your Mother was a bit of a weird one, because although I have been quite critical of the laugh track, this show still was able to age decently even with this caveat. So How I Met Your Mother was one of the first shows I ever watched fully. It made me laugh, it made me cry, it made me angry, but we don't talk about why it made me angry. For anyone who doesn't know, How I Met Your Mother follows Ted Mosby and his group of friends. And the story is of course about how Ted meets the mother of his children. And you might be asking yourself how a show like this could still be worth watching in 2025. You know, it kind of just sounds like a stretched out 2000s rom-com. Well, even though that is the show's premise, what they do to flesh out those characters throughout the seasons is something that I've never seen in any other sitcom. You have Barney, who quite literally starts out as this womanizing idiot, obsessed with suits. Now, if you're watching something like The Big Bang Theory, they probably would just run with that gag for about 10 seasons. However, this is not the case. Barney deals with many things throughout the show, such as dealing with the disappearance of his father from his life, and learning to open up to others. He also goes from a complete womanizer to a respectable man ready to settle down. We don't talk about that final season. Or how about Marshall, who deals with so many things like having to take a soulless corporate job to pay the bills for him and his future wife, Lily. Or dealing with the loss of one of his best friends, his dad. And I haven't even mentioned Ted. I mean, this guy goes through so much that practically by season 8, he's just depressed. Whether it was getting left at the altar, being fired from his dream job, or getting beat up by a goat. Ted dealt with a lot throughout the show. His arc led to my favorite episode of the show, The Time Travelers. The episode begins with Ted having a conversation with Barney. In this period of the show, Barney is getting married to the woman Ted is still in love with, Robin. As the episode continues, Barney tries to get Ted to come to Robots vs. Wrestlers. Towards the end, however, we see the coat check girl from season 1 in the bar, and Ted considers going up to her. He considers two different scenarios where he would go up to her and each her doomed in his mind. This is where Ted is at in life. He has lost all hope, and that is depressing as hell. But not as depressing as what happens next. As Ted asks Barney why he isn't trying to stop Ted from not going to Robots vs. Wrestlers, all is revealed. Barney asks Ted how he would do that. Him and Robin are planning their wedding. Marshall and Lily are at home with their kid, and Ted is all alone, in the bar. As Ted realizes this, there's a scene which is shown where both the future and present version of himself rushes over to Tracy's apartment, exclaiming his love for her, and how he wishes they could have those extra 45 days together. This is tragic in both ways. We have a present-day Ted who is so desperate to find the love of his life after so much rejection and failure, and we have a mourning, widowed husband who wants those extra days to spend with his wife. This is something I've never seen in a sitcom. An episode like this, dealing with such themes in what is supposed to be a pretty normal, conventional sitcom. It's why the show has stayed in conversation for so long. And although the final of the show does kind of ruin it a little bit, I can at least respect it with how they kill Tracy. Like, with most sitcoms, they would have just had a pretty simple, happy ending, but at least with How I Met Your Mother, it feels more real in comparison. Like, you don't just get to be happy for the rest of your life because you built a skyscraper and found the love of your life. Life is still gonna be challenging no matter what. But yeah, that final still kinda sucked. You know, I still think there is a place for sitcoms in the industry. It just has to be done right. Let's just not do any spin-offs for the love of—
Oh my god, bro.
Oh, hell no, man.